All right.
Okay, Danny, let's start this off right. Okay. Do I ever give advice to you or do you ever give advice to me?
So I don't even know how to answer that question.
The answer is both of us basically are we respect each other's agency.
Yeah,
So what we'll tell one another is, well, Zach, well, Danny, if I were in that
correct.
situation, I would look at it like this, or I
Yeah.
would consider that, right? We don't say, do that
Do
now.
this. Yeah, yeah.
Right, exactly, right. That's
However,
that's not how.
I
Yeah,
will add that sometimes there is an air of urgency. Like if one or the other is really fucking up, it's like, hey man, I really need you to take a look at this.
right. Like if Danny has an injury, which that's as soon as he said that, I imagine all the numerous injuries. He's like, Zach, my hand, I got a nail through it. What were you doing? I don't know. I was cooking pasta, and all of a sudden,
But it's like I can still
yeah,
spar, right?
yeah. So yeah, we just generally speaking, I think it's man, I actually did. I was looking into the space, Danny, and I actually saw, even with all the usually there's legal disclaimers and stuff like that, but there were people actually saying like buy this stock or whatever, and I'm like, whoa, like what is this?
Right.
Like, like how do they even know who they're talking to?
Oops.
You know what I mean? Like anyway, that whole thing is kind of ridiculous. So the best thing we can do is sort of look at the markets, look at the macro situation, and
Sure.
then basically do some deep. You know me, Danny. I'm big into the deep research
You like it deep?
on
Yeah.
yeah, I like it very deep, right, ladies? Uh, um, so uh, and then basically explain how we look at things and how we're operating from that point of
Mhm.
view. And sometimes, things will come up where I'll find something interesting and I'll even have a question. I was like, oh, that'd be perfect for, to ask Danny on the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, because there are some things that'll come up that I'm sort of just curious about with some infrastructure things and whatever. But yeah, Danny and I were talking yesterday about the Hormuz and the geopolitics side of this. And it's real interesting because earlier today, I heard, I actually heard some stuff that JD Vance was saying. And it kind of irritated me, to be honest, because JD Vance was still speaking in a way where like, well, we're doing this and we're doing that, and if Iran changes their behavior, we'll consider doing X, we'll consider doing Y, and it was such a like, you went to
It's namby
Yale,
pamby,
right? Right, yeah, it was such a pretentious sort
but
of
also kind of
like,
namby pamby. Like, well,
it was actually, it was kind of like a whiny, like remember, I shouldn't say somebody's name.
yeah.
Uh, let's say JT
I was
in
just
high
gonna I
school.
was gonna complete that. I was gonna complete that for you. The moment I heard the J, I'm like a T's coming.
Right, yeah. Really, really, really bright kid. In ninth or 10th grade, he got a full ride to Cornell. Uh, really, really bright kid. I was
Absolutely
very, very close.
insufferable
Well, hold
for
on.
me.
It was interesting. Yeah, to you, to almost everybody else except me, if you remember.
I do.
There's a reason for
I do.
that because we were in gifted together,
Well, you
and
guys went way back too.
we went way back. So like he could get away with, because he was very bright. He could get away with even mouthing off and disrespecting teachers and stuff like that. But we had a different type of relationship. But it had a JT ring to it,
Yeah.
even. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Where it was just irritating anyway. But uh, I was kind of like, I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know, the Trump administration, and then I thought about Scott Bessent, and then I thought about like the Trump administration overall, and like, oh, they just don't get it yet. Like
No.
they just don't know what other countries are doing. Like
Well,
they
we've been saying
think,
this for a long time that they're so in their insular bubble that like
right,
reality is just different for them.
right, it is, yeah, and it's that's bad and dangerous because that means that they're gonna make miscalculations and do all sorts of geopolitical missteps, and the world is just going to leave the United States behind, which is what has recently happened.
Yeah.
Uh, an agreement has been codified and all the formals have been arranged. Essentially, what's happened is largely it's China operating through Pakistan. Okay.
Yeah.
But Pakistan has sort of been the tip of the spear with respect to
Well,
all of this.
they've been the proxy to quite a few countries,
Right, but they're also acting in their own interests here,
as one
which
does.
will, yeah, right, as one does. So what's interesting about it though is because the field marshal, that essentially like he's sort of, I don't want to say a military dictator, but he's a high military leader in Pakistan, but he also handles domestic things at the same time, right? And this field marshal, um, for whatever reason, I'm not sure why, but Trump really, really likes him,
Hmm.
right? He's probably a strong man because like Trump likes strong men. Uh, and but either way, he also seems quite intelligent and reasonable. And uh, what he's arranged is essentially working with China. He's the guy that essentially was able to get the MOU that Trump signed together in the first place. And he's the one that wants, he actually does want everybody, because the oil disruptions have really stressed the energy infrastructure in Pakistan.
Right.
Their currency's inflating, it's been a disaster. So they have all sorts of reasons why they want this to work. Not just that, but they're right next door to a lot of these states. So what Pakistan has done is they've arranged the MOU to be completed. They got Trump to sign it. Okay. And uh, they recently, essentially at the same time, uh, they've extended their nuclear umbrella over to Saudi Arabia, and they've made defense pacts with Iran, Saudi,
Mhm.
and covering essentially all of those countries, Iraq, all around the Middle East, right? So the military uh, force in this new, and this is something both Putin and Xi had been speaking about, like maybe 2 weeks after this war started, a new security architecture, right?
Hmm.
That the kinks have finally been worked out of that, and they've worked out the infrastructure, if you will, and all the agreements where essentially Oman and Iran run transit through the Strait of Hormuz, right? And you can actually go to
Yep.
the you can go to the website, Persian Gulf Strait Authority, right? And it's interesting because you can actually go there and like register with a ticket to say that, uh, you have to agree to the terms and conditions, but you can get transit through the Strait of Hormuz through their webpage. And of course, you pay a service fee. What's interesting about that on the drop down menu, there's no slot for the United States or Israel.
Whoops. Oh, who knew?
Well,
I thought those were the two favorite countries of the world.
right. So, what is that telling you? When you have essentially Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and China running the financial end of this, and then you have a nuclear power, Pakistan, and an extremely strong military, Iran, okay? keep in mind the IRGC is a million man, just the IRGC, not the military, just the IRGC in Iran is over a million man strong army that are combat hardened veterans,
Wow.
right? They know how to fight. Not just that, they've got the hypersonic missiles. We've seen them perform uh, extremely well under the United States and Israel's assault,
Hmm.
right? They have done way better than most military planners and military thinkers ever thought that they would have, right?
Right.
Again, if you look at the satellite images, and this was released through like the New York Times, but I saw this, you know, way before that, of course. But the New York Times have even shown like our bases there, they're
They're
destroyed.
yeah, they're gone.
They're just wrecked. They're essentially gone, right? Uh, and then when you're talking about that, so the military footholds that we had there, um, uh, is just essentially gone. That infrastructure just doesn't really exist anymore. We don't have the same foothold that we had. Man, the bases in Qatar that I used to stay at or whatever, like those just don't, like they're
Don't exist
ruins now.
anymore. Yeah.
They don't exist anymore. So the now that's in part why I think any military strikes that have happened since remember when they tried the Operation Freedom or
Oh
whatever,
boy.
where the
Yeah.
military was supposed to escort vessels, but then Saudi Arabia said, "Nope, you can't use our airspace,"
Yeah.
right? Oh boy, like that completely changes the whole logistics that would be necessary to do something like that.
Right.
So what does that tell you? Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and even the UAE, interestingly enough, it seems like there's been some diplomacy between the UAE and Iran fairly recently, where the UAE like tapped out. They're like, "Yo, dude, all right, we're done." Like they cried uncle essentially,
Yeah.
and they're no longer as even verbally bellicose as they were. Like so,
Well,
they're
we
done.
predicted
Yeah,
that kind of paradigm shift, right? I think
right.
that a lot of countries realize like, okay, we're going to curmudgeonly give you all this land, let you, have our resources and whatever, but you're going to at least protect us, right? And then when that happened and they're getting bombed, they're like, what the fuck, man? It's like when you in like these mafia towns when you're like a little shop or whatever and you have to pay the mafia to make sure nothing bad happens or else something bad will happen. But then something bad happens anyway and you're like, what the fuck do I pay you for? You know?
Exactly. Right. Exactly. So basically, especially the formalization for that link to Saudi Arabia dates all the way back to Kissinger, of course, in that whole petrodollar agreement from the beginning.
Yep.
Uh, but what's essentially happened, which is kind of interesting, is there's been a flip, but it does make sense where apparently behind the scenes, Saudi Arabia with Israel was like, yeah, United States hit Iran, hit Iran, hit Iran, right? Like egging the U.S. to hit Iran because that would move out a competitor. But then when Iran actually like started hitting them back, right? They were like, "Oh no,
Whoa,
this
whoa, we don't
this
want none
is
of this.
right." And then Iran showed themselves to be way more formidable than anybody expected. They switched rather quickly,
Yeah.
right? And they're actually lucky they did because if Iran really wanted to, man, do you know what would happen if like they took out just like one water treatment plant in Dubai
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Saudi
That's
Arabia?
that's a lot of people getting affected.
Oh, that's a lot of people. Like we're talking like, let's say if a million people who are angry at the government anyway just don't have water.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's
Yeah.
going to get dangerous real quick. So let's speed it up. What's happened is, I wanted to say like I remember when I was a kid, I was sort of like small and would get like recurrent sinus infections and stuff like that. So
I was always sick as a kid. Yeah.
right, so I got picked on a lot when I, was going to public school initially. Then what ended up happening was in third grade, one of the biggest school bullies, who was bigger than everybody else, of course, he tried picking on me. And I said, during recess or whatever, watch, I'm going to essentially I'm going to beat you up. And I did really, really bad, actually. Because, I mean, I was, always doing martial arts and stuff anyway. And one thing that I noticed at that point, which happened, it's sort of one of those instances that happen numerous times throughout your lifetime, where somebody who initially was acting like a tough bully or whatever, and then you just beat them
Yeah,
physically
yeah, no,
in an altercation.
we kind of made that analogy a couple times before. If you recall, like with Trump sitting here being all bellicose and grabbing Maduro in his pajamas and stuff like that. He just thinks he's king shit on Pooh Hill. And then somebody on the schoolyard pops you in the nose, and then you do the
Mm-hmm.
Cartman,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, right.
and all of a sudden the dynamic has changed.
Exactly. And all of a sudden they go from like, give me your lunch money or whatever to, let's be friends. Please
Right,
don't take my lunch money.
right, right.
That dynamic switches very quickly. So that seems to be what's happened. And all of that infrastructure has now been formalized. So now you actually have Pakistan with military bases and hundreds of thousands of military troops actually providing security to the Saudi royal family
Mhm.
instead of the United States now,
Right.
right? And then you have Iran essentially also creating a sort of security umbrella over that. So what's happened is there's been a dramatic paradigm shift now to where the United States is no longer the boss. They're sort of
Correct.
like a Middle East NATO,
Right,
right?
right, and
Which is
as it
right.
should be, right? You have
Yeah,
the
let them
EU,
right.
which should, although it doesn't, but it should represent the values of European countries. Why can't there be an African Union and a Middle Eastern Union, right? It just makes sense,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
And let them do
let
their
them
thing,
provide their own
right?
security, their own economic. That's perfectly
Yeah, I think
rational.
that's a great idea, and I think everybody
Right.
would benefit from it. So I think
Correct.
that what we're talking about has really been reflected in oil prices. The issue is there's a big difference between the spot price and the crude oil futures price. Okay, so there's a paradigm in futures. How you futures are essentially a derivative contract, which means there's a lot of stuff priced in, as in the actual price reflects a lot of things. Okay, so not only does it reflect the actual price at a given time, but you're trying to project the price in the future. And in commodities, that includes storage fees, right? So almost always in a healthy market, the futures, crude oil futures, are higher than the spot price. The spot price is what we pay. If I go to Zach and I say, "Hey Zach, I need 1 million barrels of oil. Here's some money," and you say, "Okay," and you give it to me, that's a spot price. That's like actually trading like the thing. In the If you use a derivative method, options or futures are typically like I guess the barometer for oil prices. You have to account for storage fees, right? What I'm getting at is that almost always in healthy markets anyway, the crude oil future should be higher than the spot. That's called contango. Okay. If you don't have that, you have what we call backwardation, and that's usually very bad. Because it's highlighting some inefficiency in the market, or there's a bunch of reasons for it. But what we're seeing is a backwardation like I've never seen before, right? Because and we'll pop on over to the charts in a second, but the futures price is hovering around like $67 to $70, something like that. But as we know, the spot price is trading well into the hundreds, right? So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The when I looked into this, I want to say it doesn't make sense at first glance. You have to get into some of the details in the mechanics of the market to make sense of it. Now,
Right.
the question is, now here this was a question of oil markets for a long time. Could the futures price actually influence the actual price of a physical barrel of oil? Right? The answer is no. And we know that because there are these things called crack spreads in refiners.
Hmm.
Essentially, what the crack spreads are, it's the difference between the crude and the actual refined products that are sold. For instance, even though it's dramatically dropped in the futures market, you notice that gasoline has only come down at about 4%, roughly,
Right.
right? Hasn't
Like
come down a whole
we're
much.
still not back into the twos like we were when oil used to be, you know, in the 60s.
Right. In fact, Trump even commented on that, if I'm not mistaken. He's like, gasoline should be, with oil prices being like this, gasoline should be back at like $2 a gallon or something like that. And that goes to show that he probably doesn't even understand.
These dynamics, of course.
Besant is the one who's like, hey, I'm going to get the spot crude down. And Besant was the guy
Just
that
to make price go down. Why price no go down?
right. But Besant was the guy who was responsible for the pound sterling collapse, if you remember. He was the
Yep.
guy that was employed by um, George Soros
George, well, I was
to
just
do
gonna
that.
say George Soros was ultimately responsible, but Bissett was on that team.
Was
Yeah,
working for him. He's the guy that helped engineer that.
it was
Right.
what
So
1989, I think, something like that.
yeah. And so Besant has done a pretty good job about, and Besant understands how markets work and everything. And the way I think he planned to get the crude down was to get the MOU signed and then, of course, have a whole bunch of news headlines and so forth signaling to the market that there was going to be a flood of crude into markets overall, which there was. I mean, there was a release,
Mhm.
obviously, of the crude carriers that were in Hormuz. That was sort of brief. Uh, it was short lived, and that's sort of like a one shot deal. Okay, so there was a brief like splurge of oil onto the market. And on top of that, there were all the sort of like carefully worded sentiment indicator headlines to trip the algorithms
Right,
and
right.
retail traders and stuff like that to go sell oil, sell oil,
Yeah.
sell oil. At the same time, he runs treasury,
Hmm.
right? So it's very easy to just put massive short positions on the futures market to drop that down. Here's the problem: you can only do that for so long. Number one. Number two, that actually doesn't affect the real like cost of physical barrels of oil. And I knew this because I looked into Valero, and then I looked at the crack spreads for all the major refiners in the United States and even elsewhere. And the crack spreads or the differences were there's usually a ratio of like crude cost versus gasoline, right?
Hmm.
Those have massively separated. So what that tells you is the refiners are still paying about 110, $115 per barrel of crude anyway. That's
Hmm.
why gasoline hasn't gone down, because they still need to make their overhead and everything.
Right.
So maybe it's gone down a little bit, but it's not likely to go down much further.
No,
There's a
I
hard
have seen
limit.
it go down a bit. It's under $4, which hey, I'll take it, but
Right.
not the kind of prices we were used to, 6 months ago.
Right. You're not going to get $3, $2 a gallon gas.
Right.
It's not going to happen because they would go out of business really quick.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So even though at the same time the SPR is still sort of continually trying to flood the market with the releases, but we're running up. I looked at the SPR should be concluding at around like the 9th of July.
Yeah, well,
So
that's
that's going to be
that's
real
one thing.
interesting.
Again, not to sound alarmist, it's just, but there's a difference between alarmist and realist, right? When we are up on critical levels of our SPR. We have been calling this out for the past 4 weeks now, I think, if not more, about that July 9th date. And here we are, it is July 3rd, right? So we are less than a full week away.
Right.
So, you know, just something to think about, food for thought.
But also on the same token, one thing that I've noticed interesting when looking at in my account today is, uh, despite crude being what it is, uh, the the upstream suppliers, like the people that actually like produce the crude,
Mhm.
uh, they're holding tight. Like they're not going any lower. Like I would like them to go lower, but I don't.
I
Unfortunately, I
have
just
noticed, I mean, we'll
yeah
get into that with some of the charts, but I have noticed that we seem to be at like, I don't want to say, you never want to say absolute bottom, but like a relative bottom here. In that we have very strong support at the technical levels that we identified, and no matter how far oil is suppressed, they're just not going any lower. And I even think that we're there in the futures price too, right? Because
yeah.
we've essentially kind of bottomed out, and we have multiple indicators of support at critical levels. I'm just not sure. And again, the markets can remain, irrational longer than you.
Irrational.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
longer than you or I can remain solvent. But these are pretty critical levels, and we're fast approaching hard deadlines as in terms of like physical supplies. Like as you mentioned, you can't rate hike your way into hydrocarbons. Like
Mm-hmm.
that physics just doesn't
Yep.
work. So I'm asserting that we're pretty much at lows here. So it's
With,
it's it's
with,
only going to go up from there.
well, with that said, we have two things to look forward to. Again, the conclusion of the SPR releases, and I don't know how much longer
Hmm.
uh, it's going to like. I'm sure China probably made a deal with Trump when China visited Beijing. Like, okay, we'll stay out of the market to sort of let you get the Iran situation concluded with. I
Sure.
guarantee you there's a timeline
No,
with
no,
that,
they're
though.
like, come on,
They're not
guys.
going to stay out of
Yeah.
the market for too long.
Right.
They could, but in China, that's not how they operate. They're very conservative. They don't want to tap their
Sure, sure.
SPR
And they're
any
not.
longer than they have to.
Well, right, and they're not going to sit there and jeopardize themselves just to do us a solid. Like
Yeah.
I even think the fact that they agreed to that is actually quite generous, right? Let
Ah,
alone.
it wasn't generous. Here's what happened. I almost guarantee this is what the quid pro quo was. Remember after the Beijing meeting
Mhm.
concluded and Trump came back, there was an announcement that the U.S. is halting all arms sales. Because remember, they had already sold a bunch of arms to Taiwan. Those arms
Mm,
were never delivered
right.
because they were halted. I guarantee you that there was some sort of,
Quid pro quo, yeah.
okay, we'll
Hmm.
stay out of the market as long as you stop arming Taiwan.
Right, right, right.
And that seems to be exactly what's taken place. So yeah, but there's got to be a timetable on that. They're not going to stay out of the market forever. So we have the SPR concluding, and we have China that's going to get back into the market. And boy, yo, buddy, that's going to be nasty.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, we have some stock selections here. Some of them are tied to the geopolitical events just that we just discussed. There's some other ones related to just current events. For example, the first one, AC manufacturer pertaining to the EU. As you may have heard, that's a big deal nowadays. Apparently Europeans can't have AC because reasons. So
No, well, no, the whole Europe has just been so used to mild climate where they haven't needed AC for the longest time. It just hasn't been necessary. So what's happened recently, though, whether you believe in climate change or not, even though it's interesting, I was one of those people that was always skeptical of everything, but I've been gardening for most of my life. And every week when I would go outside in Florida, I took my own temperatures and logged them. At least in this general region, there definitely has been climate change. I know that for a fact.
Sure.
Now, in Europe, if you actually look into it, there have been thousands of people that have died in the last month
Hmm.
due to heat stress alone,
Sure.
right? So it's going to be literally a matter of life and death for them to get ACs or not. So I was like, hey, there's a market opportunity
Yep.
there.
So the first one is an AC manufacturer, largest seller in the UK, in the EU. Sorry, only 20% of buildings and residents have AC. That boy, could you imagine that in Florida? Um,
Nope,
yeah.
we would
So
die.
yeah,
Literally,
no, you would literally
we would
die.
die.
So yeah, we do see when in doubt, zoom out. So we do see this kind of easing here, but as of recently, we see a nice little pickup. I've done the Fibonacci's, and a reasonable retracement would be at zero point 0.5, 50% or 618 at 1438 or 1379.
This is a Japanese manufacturer too.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
So the price, luckily for us in the U.S., we can buy it at comparatively low prices
right.
due to the yen U.S. USD valuation.
Sure.
So
Car, second largest seller to the EU, also US market share. Interesting. Um, Cars looking good up and to the right. Very nice growth here. This is a
mhm.
textbook. Elliott Wave here. So yeah, that one. If we do our Fibonacci's, looking at some good entry prices, maybe. We nice little retracement here. We could go as low as 65.07 or 62.43, just based on what I'm seeing here. The technicals did hit a high here at 76.25. If you're looking at for a quick turnaround, that would be my target. If you're a little bit more aggressive, 67.71 is where you want to look to enter, hypothetically.
Right.
Fig. Okay.
What I did with Fig was man, I got to tell you. So I hate Adobe.
Oh, I hate
I use
Adobe
it.
so much. Oh.
I use Adobe almost every day. However, I mean, Photoshop and Illustrator and just they're fantastic. What they do is unparalleled. However, I hate them as a company. Uh, in fact, I thought of joining in the class action lawsuit because they've used my material to train their AI,
Wow.
which should be illegal because all of it's copywritten.
Hmm.
Now, what I like about Figma, though, I think I brought Figma up before, but it's taken a drop recently, and this drop hasn't been to the like reduction of profits or anything. In fact, those have increased as well as their user base.
Wait,
They're
Figma, that's
stealing
the
market share.
that's the thing where you can design the JavaScript and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, JavaScript, and it
Oh my
has
God,
AI
I
plugins
use them all
now.
the
Yeah,
time. I love this company.
right. Yeah, it's great. They do a lot. They have a lot of like good brainstorming soft.
Yeah. No,
It's
Figma is really
really
good.
really cool. And they're stealing a lot of good market share from Adobe. But this drop here,
I'm
when I
actually
looked into
really
the math
surprised to see
behind it,
this. I'm really surprised to see this death spiral here because Figma is a good software. It's used. Many of the companies I consult for have enterprise licenses with them. I don't know if you have a reason for this little death spiral here. I'd love to hear
I
it.
do. If
Okay.
you look at each one of these tranches on this graph, this is when they've released more of their shares onto the public market because they've newly IPO'd.
Okay.
So in August, okay, I actually like this because in August, they're like that's the last time they're taking
Right
locked
here.
up stock. Right, that's the last time they're taking locked up stock from like their employees have and everything and allowing them to sell it on public markets and so forth.
Right.
So after August, I'm trying to get in at anything around $18 because I have them fair valued about 25 right now, just based on the profit. You
Sure.
see what in their cash flow. So what I'm looking at is getting in like around it. My question is them really is this August deadline where they're releasing off in the last bit of the stock that they have onto the public markets? Is that already priced in by now?
Okay, so if it's been announced, then it's priced in. Like if it's public,
Okay,
it's yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, it is then. Okay, right. So I was
My
hoping to
guess
get
is
in.
they announced it either here or here when they're like, oh shit,
Right,
okay, more dumping of the markets, and then we see the price correction accordingly. Because don't forget, you want to buy on the rumor, sell on the news, right?
right.
And so this is once it's news, it's you know it's already priced
Okay.
in.
So yeah, and seeing as most people are growing more and more disenfranchised, when I looked at the fundamentals of this company, like the better it actually looked too. Like they're onboarding more users, and at the same time they're onboarding more users, uh, and stealing more market share from Adobe.
Thank
People are
God.
more and more pissed off at Adobe,
Oh yeah, no,
right?
I
So
can't
yeah,
stand Adobe. Like, just to edit a PDF, you have this little pop up in your face. Hey, pay for this subscription, and to use Acrobat. Like all these little and they nickel and dime you too, right? So
right.
it's like I just can't stand that business mentality, especially when I could write a Python script to edit Adobe stuff, right? I would rather just use one of their a piece of software to say edit a PDF or insert some text or whatever like that. I'll do it in Python. That's fine, right? I have that skill. But you could
Right.
just not be a dick and let me use your software for like personal use. I could
Right.
understand, okay, if I'm using it in my company and I'm maybe doing some art stuff or whatever, and I'm heavily using it, fine, get a license, no problem there. But I really hate it when they clamp down on like individual users, and it's not like I use it every day, right? So if it was like a critical piece of software in my workflow, I would probably pay a licensing fee or whatever. But if it's something I need to use every once in a while, and the worst is like for work, right, where I'm on a work PC or for the companies that I consult for, and I have to edit a PDF, and then I get this little pop up, and then I have to like go through this long process to get the license just to edit one PDF. So they're just
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
the amount of
Now,
frustration I've had with this company is just immeasurable.
But that's Adobe, not Figma. Figma's the
Correct, correct,
polar opposite.
correct. Yeah,
They actually treat their
yeah,
users really good.
they do,
Yeah.
they do. And
Right.
there's all kinds of if you want to go and mess around and create little JavaScript. They're really good for designing widgets. You know how you integrate with your website, and you want
Mhm.
this little panel that the user can toggle things or do whatever. You can kind of hack that together on Figma, which is really great because I'm not a UI guy. I understand JavaScript really well, but from a programming perspective, so the UI, as you know, that's my Achilles heel. I can kind of mess about with it on Figma, which is just wonderful, right?
Mhm. Yeah. So, I mean, I've used their product before. I like it, and they're really. I wanted to bring them up because, like, they're right. If it's already priced in, then I don't know a better buying opportunity than like right now would
Sure.
be.
Yeah. No.
So,
As
yeah.
we saw, that was that death spiral, as I call it. But if that is the culmination of the pricing in of the markets to their stock, their release,
Right.
then that would be an absolute bottom. And I would also add that they're integrating AI into their product so that you can kind of type what you want, help me with this widget, make it look blah blah blah, and it'll kind of help you out with that, which is really the way to go. Um,
Right.
Looking at mock natural resources, this has been mentioned on the show before,
I don't know about that.
or
I
maybe it
really
was
like
between us. Maybe it was between us and
I really like where Mock's at right now. I believe Mock has a 14% dividend.
oh,
Uh, yeah,
yeah,
this is a dividend
14.
leviathan.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's like the Gilgamesh of of
yeah.
dividend kings.
And
Wow.
Mock Natural Resources, they're extremely profitable. High, a lot of cash flow. They're extremely efficient. Like, I don't know, man. When I saw this at these valuations in particular, I'm like, limit order 10.
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
see.
yeah,
Okay, so this one, what's the deal with this sell-off here, do you think?
Oh, that was the same sell off that we saw with oil because it's the energy
I see.
companies.
So essentially,
But the
yeah,
fundamentals are still there. You understand what I'm saying?
okay.
And they offer the 14% dividend. So this is the same oil sell off that we've seen, right? But as we've discussed, that's a paper market sort of
Sure,
like
sure. So that's
phenomenon,
vapors. Okay.
right?
So I mean, pretty much anything, with this, we established this low here at 1062. We are below 1311. So, you know, I mean, again, this is I think at current levels, this is a pretty good buy. You want to be really stingy, you could probably wait for another dip here. But again, that July 9th deadline is coming up quick. So
Right. That's
if
why I
oil
wanted to bring it up,
bounces, sure, if
right?
oil bounces, that this is gonna go with it. Interesting. It's only been on the market. Okay, this is a day chart. So since 2024, so we don't have a lot of history here. But if you remember those, those kind of little dips that we saw in some of our other picks, this looks to be tracking pretty nicely. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um, okay, grid. U.S. electrical grid ETF. That's interesting. And look at that. Wow,
Mm-hmm.
what a fine growth. It's a little bit expensive, but let's see. Trying to look for it does seem to pay dividends. Did I pass it? Okay, dividend. It doesn't pay a huge dividend,
Mm-hmm.
but um it's the stock price is also higher too, so that makes sense. Yeah, I mean this really up and to the right of the up and to the right.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that a lot of times when you have something like this, like even if I was to kind of repeat this pattern but rewind the clock, right? Like this here, this is not the end of the world. A lot of people would see this and they'd be like, "Oh my God." But look, when in doubt, zoom out,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what I'm trying to say is that I do believe that this is overbought at this point. The indicate look at this indicator, right? Just the relative scale between what's going on south of what is this? Just before 2026, really, versus now. Just tremendous growth. Okay, so what that's telling me is that it is overbought at this point. We could likely see a retracement. This is something I would watch. Again, it's not something I would ape into just because it's like $200 almost. I would wait for a nice little retracement to say 163 or 136 at the absolute worst. So I would place two limit orders there if you're interested in looking at this. Just be wary of aping in because we're due for a technical retracement.
Now, the reason why I wanted to bring this up, though, is check this out. There have been a lot of headlines recently about this summer. And this is why I'm drawing the macro into the picture here.
Sure.
About this summer in the United States and our overall grid stability,
Hmm.
right? For instance, I believe it was Zoran Mamdani got, I don't know, he said something about how people should keep their AC at 68 or something like that. And
78, yeah.
people went crazy over it. But whatever. The whole point is the reason why he gave that recommendation was simply to stop the grid from overloading,
Right,
which is
because
a real problem.
New
Like
York
that's
in
a real
particular,
problem
I was
now.
actually
Right.
talking about this recently. New York in particular has basically taken away all of the nuclear, all of the alternative energy, so they're only on the main electrical grid, right? And
Right.
if you remember, there were several cases, I want to say in the early 2000s, I'll have to fact check that, but there were like the entire Northeast blacked out. And there was a lot of suspicion. Oh, was it an EMP? Was it? Nope. They were just stressing the grid too much. And
Yep.
it's always in times like this because if you understand the physics and the of the grid, it's like, well, if you don't have this kind of I guess plentiferousness with sources of energy, you're only dealing with one. You have to crank the fuck out of the voltage, right? Which
Hmm.
is okay, you could do that, but there's a lot of risk in that, as you can imagine. And so we've seen that multiple times where like the entire northeast went black.
Right. Now, so you have that you have normal brownouts in places like California. Long story short, the U.S. Electrical grid, it needs like serious surgical
Yep,
reconstruction.
sure.
My point is, yes, I want this to retrace too, but overall grid investments, way more needs to be made.
Uh,
Like
totally
a
agree. Yep.
way more needs to be made.
Well, and
So
don't even get me started on the cyber about that.
exactly right. Yeah, this is
Uh,
something I bought recently.
FRVO.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yes.
okay. Let's discuss what's going on here. Again, looking just purely technically, I'd have cause for
Right.
concern. However, um,
However, I I recently got in here because it dropped down. Because when I looked into the overall, not just the structure of the company, the power purchase agreements that they have, and the underlying tech,
mhm,
this is the only company that is in existence today, okay, that's used the new sort of horizontal drilling techniques that were specific to fracking and so
interesting.
forth, where they've been able to adopt that tech in order to essentially do geothermal energy anywhere.
Okay.
So think about that for a second. This is the only company with this sort of proprietary tech where you can set up which geothermal is like my favorite. If it's doable, it's like my favorite form of energy
Right.
because there's no pollution.
Sure.
It's like once it's installed, that's it. It's just free energy, free heat, and free electrons, man. And this is the only company that has the tech necessary to do that anywhere in the world, much less the continental United States. So, as we were talking about with the overall energy picture, uh, yes, we have fossil fuels and everything like that, but those have certain lifetimes to each well and so forth too,
Right.
right? A company like this, due to oil and so forth dropping uh, and washing a whole bunch of speculators out of the market, um, I do. Part of it is that I'm so bullish on their technology and their IP.
Yeah.
Also, I sent an email to the guy that is the CEO.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, and I don't know, maybe I could try to get him to come on or something. But
Would love to have him as a
really,
guest. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
no,
Favorite.
really cool guy because we're both interested in sustainability and so forth.
Did he reply
And
to you?
yeah, he did.
Oh, cool.
And they have not only do they have power purchase agreements, but they have even more agreements internationally. The
Mhm.
problem is actually the Trump they're sort of getting clearance with the Trump administration because they don't necessarily want this tech outside of the country
Right.
because it's as valuable
As,
as it
as
is.
it is. Yeah, exactly. Very
So,
interesting. Very interesting selection there. NAT. This one I think I got into quite. Yeah, Nordic American. I got into this a while ago. I remember this was a kind of whisper from one of my hedge fund friends. I want to say I got
mm-hmm,
in here, yeah, in the dollar range. This was, yeah, 2024, 2025 time frame. And this has done quite well. This is a personal favorite of mine. It's been sitting in my portfolio for quite some time, and
mm-hmm.
I don't. It pays dividends, so I just don't feel like taking profits. I would rather just hold it.
No, don't hold on
Yeah.
to this. That's what I saw when I was looking into the structure of the company and their especially the dividend. This is another dividend leviathan. It's like 13% or something like that, and they're incredibly profitable. So it's like,
Right.
Danny, I would even recommend like
Wow.
dipping back into this on dips,
Sure.
like
Sure. Yeah, I'll keep an eye
because
on this
this
for sure.
this
Um.
is this is they're increasing their fleet and they're completely insulated through the Hormuz crisis.
Right.
Like they travel everywhere. It's a shipping company, and they
Right.
have a lot of they have a lot of crude carriers. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm gonna
I
write.
really like the dividend on this one too, especially
Yeah.
when it aligns with the profits. So
Okay. And again, this is, to pull back a second, we introduced two stocks in particular that are at great prices and they have great dividends, right? And that was MNR, right? Where, this is 10-ish dollars, right? And a T less than 10, in the $5-6 range. So again, if you're on a budget and you can only spare $10 a month, I mean these are things that we would look at, especially with the dividends.
right, just
Uh,
accumulated dips, man. I'm telling you,
exactly.
that's yeah.
Okay, International Seaways. Another
Check the dividend on that one too. It's lower, but it's a this is the only company. This is
still
the
10%. That's crazy.
That's good, right? This is the largest. Uh, they've like the largest.
And that's 10% on 74 too, right? So a lot of times when the stock value increases, the share price increases, they'll adjust, but that's still like, so essentially you're making 7-ish, where are we at? So we're eight, basically we're in the 80s, so $8
Yeah, this is
off of
another
this.
shipping. Yeah, another shipping company with the largest fleet, the most profitable, and entirely insulated from Hormuz. Right.
Right. Very strong support here at 78.31. Watch this little vacuum zone here to 67.46. Either of those would be good areas to pick this up. I know that this is a little bit more expensive in the 70s, 80s, but yeah, if you watch these levels, you could get a good price here. I'm not convinced that we're gonna break out here. We could test this low again at put a limit order here at 78.31. Again, if you're really stingy or you want to add more, watch 67.46.
Mm-hmm.
But okay. D8
This is another
VLCCs.
dividend Leviathan right here.
Wow. Okay. I love those. 856. Okay. Um, so we have a nice little range here. This is a good thing, because it means we're solidly establishing a value area, as opposed to just trucking up and up and up and waiting for a nice crash to
Right.
correct. We have a solid, what we call a range or a value area being established between 1664 and 1973. And good news is we're here close to the bottom. So if you're looking to pick up some, this is pretty good. We're already in a pretty good area.
Right. And again, what's this? 14%? 13?
8.56. This is
Oh,
what
it's
I'm
eight.
seeing here.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
Still,
All right,
you know.
still pretty good.
Yeah. ACS. Whoops. Eight.
Now, yeah, ACS is interesting because they're sort of like, I think this is going to be the new paradigm moving forward. Instead of those really large VLCCs that require deep water ports, these are sort of
Whoa.
like, yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay.
this is the new paradigm in shipping, though. I guarantee it. Right.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about this guy. Just talk about up and to the right, and this is like I would say that this was overbought even here, right? But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, clearly it looks overbought. The issue is, I mean, this is almost a perfect, hyperbolic growth here. Clearly saying something. I would like to see it come down to like 113.5 over here at the 786. Um, you know, I keep saying,
So
go ahead.
I should sell this one then.
It's looking really, really top heavy, but again, this is a behavior that's been established since 2022. You would think we would see that nice Elliott wave, corrective phase by then. Here we are in 2026, and we're still off to the races. Is the question is this the retracement? Right? Is this the dip? This little I call this a dragon head pattern because you see this little thing you see is horns here, and then you'll see a snout form, and there's like four phases to it, and basically it's a huge sustained growth. Then the markets kind of equilibrate for a little bit as buyers and sellers come to the table, value is established, and then it's breakout time again if you have a good one.
Well,
Oftentimes
uh,
they follow each other.
now tell me if this is perhaps what we're seeing, right? Like I said, this is the new generation of shipping. This company specializes
Wow.
in
Yeah, it certainly does seem like it.
medium size, medium range shipping containers that go overseas. So
Hmm.
they don't require deep sea ports,
Right.
and they're incredibly adaptable. The reason why I say that's the new regime is because with the complications happening in Hormuz,
Right.
this shipping company doesn't have to specialize for like the VL Maxes do or the VLCCs, right? That are extremely heavy and deep,
Yeah.
right?
If
These
I
can
recall, the
go
VL
essentially,
is very large, right?
yeah, very large carrier,
Very large
cargo
carrying
carrier,
capacity
right?
or something like that.
Right, exactly.
But anyway, the VL literally means very large.
Right. These are mid-range cargo ships. So they can literally drop off at any port and they're like mid-range, mid-size. So they're way more plastic in where they can go.
Right.
And
Very interesting.
this is more for regional supply chains, right? Which is
So
what I think that's the new regime that we're going to see moving
yeah.
forward. Instead of overall globalization and really large, efficient carriers going, we're going to need smaller, more adaptable, more niche cargo overall.
Yeah, and yeah, so that's definitely a banger right there. Again, the only risk would be a technical retracement lower, but still, I have that one earmarked because they're clearly doing something interesting. Here, this one is clearly something I looked at like in the COVID era. I think what's going on, as you see here, 2020, this is due to COVID. I have some lines drawn here. This is identifying what we call a channel pattern. A channel pattern, actually, they're very well established in the literature. Typically, what you see is a 50% retracement. And look at this. Or sorry, 50%. So wherever the channel is going, it breaks to the other way 50%. And look,
Right.
exactly 50%, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, this is a bear channel. When it breaks up, you see a 50% retracement. And likewise, if you have a bull channel, you can expect the same. So this is something that I've looked at in the past, around the COVID era, kind of all over the place. It does pay dividend though. So that is at 774. So I would be looking, depending on what your outlook for this is, if we could potentially see another test of lows here. Then again, we have we're still in like the $10-11 range, so it's a fairly economical stock to look at. But if we want to get the best price, we ultimately like to see something in the sevens here, testing lows again. Just a technical analysis.
And that's SFL.
SFL, yeah. And this is
Is that
paying
one
us,
that I put up?
yes.
I don't remember what that company
Yes.
is.
We have SFL ship licensure to majors.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. This company is kind of interesting. They they okay. What they do is they own the ships and so forth, but they will rent or lease those ships to the oil majors. So
Aha.
they don't have. So it's like they'll lease them to like Exxon or Chevron or whoever, right? But they don't, even if they do go to Hormuz, they're not responsible for the loss of the ship
Right.
or anything like that. And my rationale was given the certain given the odd place we are within global supply chains, if perhaps there was more upside in that regime now, because that way you don't have the risk inherent with
Yep.
your ships going through Hormuz or
Yep.
whatever.
Okay. Quinn is clean energy.
Yep.
All
This
right.
is a utility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it does look like we're at highs here, at least relative highs. And the overall, again, up and to the right. We like that. A little bit of a volatility here, but that's okay. So the my only cause for concern, again, clean energy is being pushed. Has been for quite some time, especially depending on what type of clean energy. But here we have a nice support level here at around $32. And it does look like we have a chance of fulfilling that. We do see this large retracement coming down to
Hmm.
31.81. We have strong support there. Zoom out just a little bit. That is a rather global low. So if you're looking to get in on this one, I would recommend targeting this low here. It certainly is possible that we could break that and go to this other low, but I'm guessing that there might be something bullish that you have to say about that, which would, likely kick in
Well,
before that.
yeah, this is again, this is the most profitable solar natural gas utility in the United States. And seeing as how we have let's just say, not the best trade relationship with China,
Could be
who
better.
essentially
Certainly could be better.
has a monopoly on this sort of thing, and this being a utility. This plays a dividend too, I believe. I don't think it's
And
exactly that high,
anytime you
but
see a little D here, that's dividend, and the E is earnings. So yeah, this definitely pays a dividend. Let's check it out. 5.57. Look at that.
there we go. Yeah, yeah.
Not bad.
So being the most profitable sort of natural gas, it does natural gas and solar utility like in the United States, right? And I think they're headquartered in Florida too, right? So again, back to energy
Wait a minute, wait a minute.
self-sufficiency in the
You said
grid.
that they were solar?
Solar and natural gas utility.
I
Yeah.
think I actually met their CEO. I met their C.
Yeah.
He's a really cool guy too, and I've driven
Yeah.
past their facility. If I recall, it's off I-75. I want to say. I'll have to fact check that. I have driven by the facility, and I have met their CEO. He's really cool.
Right. But here's my bull case for it. Seeing as we discussed earlier, what are the two countries that aren't allowed to trade through Hormuz and so forth in the new
Yeah, yeah, the
regime?
two favorite children of the world.
Right. So given that, in the United States, for us to like rely solely on like oil and natural gas, right, which we export to,
Sure.
right, that's a problem in the United States overall or if we're going to have to be energy independent.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
seeing as this
that's a
is a
big
mixed
problem.
utility that pays a dividend, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
So keep your eyes on
it
that one for
fills
sure.
it
Aura,
fills that gap.
yeah, yeah, for sure. This one we looks like we have looked at, but it's nice to revisit it due to a recent drop. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so might
Yep.
be something to keep an eye on. I like how we're following up on the things that we talked about, right? So there's a lot of ones that I'm like, this is a little pricey for me right now. I would keep an eye on it. So we're just trying to
Right.
do diligence on that. We have a nice drop here. 618 retracement, a lot of support here. Notice the green triangles. I think this is pretty decent levels if you want to get in on this one. In particular, 103.47. We're a little bit higher here. We might see a rejection off 114.84 in the meantime. I'm not entirely convinced we're going to go much lower. When in doubt, zoom out. Let's fact check that. Yeah, I mean, this is a solid. Like we could see a little dip here to 95.47, but I think that this, if you're looking at that one, you might want to consider this dip. Uh,
Yeah.
and remind us what they do.
Oh, this is geothermal in Nevada.
Geothermal. Okay. Oh, nice. Okay.
They're profitable. I mean, they're like profitable too. Like they legit like they're like the large. They're like essentially like the hegemon in geothermal right now. That actually like recurring profits, good cash
Mhm.
flow, good fundamental underlying business. So
So sustainable infrastructure, HASI. We see this huge, tremendous volatility here. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It happens. But the important thing is we definitely see something in the attempt in the way of an attempt at a recovery here, at least recently. Rather jagged looking dragon head pattern here. Could be nicer. Actually, no, this is quite well defined if you look at the hour chart. Going in here, we can try to establish. Let me go out actually 2 hours. You want to try to encapsulate the behavior. Yeah, here we go. Okay, rough alignment. Might want to. There we go. So we already see a little bit of a retracement here. As I mentioned, this dragon head forming at 38.30, sorry, yeah, 38.34. That's a 786 retracement, 618 to 34.86. Would be great if you could get that. Typically, what you see is this little kind of oscillatory behavior here. So if you're stingy and don't want to buy at current levels, might want to look at like 34, 37, 44. That's realistic. Again, if we retrace further, 34.86, there's different strategies for that. We could load up here and then have a limit order set just in case. But yeah, that's the technicals on this. A reasonable target for that is to hit highs at 42.77. But this is one I might want to keep because they do pay a dividend at 4.4%.
Right. Now, this is the way they structure this company is interesting too. Is apparently they know that they're like they're a sort of like bank, if you will, for pioneering sustainable
Right,
projects.
right, yeah,
I
yeah.
was looking into them for my own projects,
Uh-huh.
but then I looked at their corporate balance sheet, like their profits, and then their dividend, and I was like,
Sure. You're like,
oh,
wow.
this is yeah, because they'll invest in the companies that they offer loans to, right? So the
Sure.
stuff that they find promising, they hold a chunk of it, and then off to the races they go.
Yeah, that's
So
that's definitely one we want to keep an eye on. We're looking at next tack. That is a recent change.
mhm.
So that's looks like a little breakout here.
Yep.
Takeda Pharmaceutical Company. I do remember us discussing that. Let's zoom out a little bit and try to get a feel for the global behavior. What is this guy doing? Okay, so actually. Yeah, this is a really good dip here. As I say, anything past, okay, so if we break this level here, that's if you remember, we were discussing the Elliott wave. I could actually draw that real quick to make that a little bit more succinct. Granted, there is some, kind of
Noise.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's some noise and there's some subjectivity to it. I'm not gonna lie. There are complaints about that, and that's perfectly valid. And we see. Let's do the 1 second here as I get my stuff together. Okay, here we go. So this is what I'm seeing. This is the Elliott wave here. Now, when does the Elliott wave become invalid? And that's when we break this 2 here, which roughly corresponds to 1440. We didn't do that, okay? So we did have a retracement. That's fine. It happens. That's what we actually plan for that to 1525 with a gap up here to 1663. It's a very good sign, right? It's showing us that this is likely at least a relative bottom. Cool. A
Or
tie.
that was the relative bottom,
Correct,
and
correct.
now
Yes.
it's right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the reason why I say that is the company still has all sorts of good IP. They have a good IP pipeline, and they're still profitable.
Yeah.
So remember the reason why I want to check up on this, because I was surprised when I bought shares at that bottom that it had actually increased in value since then.
Yep.
So yeah.
Okay, so Atai Beckley, again, same kind of idea here. You see technicals already drawn, which means we have covered this. Very strong support here at 322. It does look like we may be starting to form the next Elliott wave impulse, and I say that because the blue line here on the bottom that tracks basically momentum, longer term momentum, so sustained momentum. So we do see, again, this is up and to the right. What does that mean? Well, this guy's kind of, trending downward, but our momentum is still high. What does that mean? Well, people are still putting in, there is still buying interest in this. The price hasn't yet reacted to it. However, we do see these breakouts here, which might indicate that we may be starting for the next bull run on this guy. So good to follow up on that. ABBV. Wow, nice breakout here. As you see, we did cover this before.
Yep.
And this is another one that's just up and to the right. This is crazy growth here. Um, you know, Optimally, based on my Fibonacci's, we would wait to buy at like the 176 or 155, corresponding to the 618 or the 50% retracement. I just don't know that we're going to see that, and you see that we've already broken highs here at 246. This is something that if you haven't gotten in on this, you might just want to accept that you missed the boat here because I like to buy on dips, and I just don't know when we're going to see that because look, all the way back to 2020, right? So if we wanted a little bit more of a reasonable dip, you know, 88.6 or 786, corresponding to 225 or 207, it's probably about the best we're going to do on this guy. So help. Okay, so I believe I remember covering
Yeah.
this again. This is a as I call quote unquote death spiral. The issue is that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily take into account things that are going on right now, right? So that's a global behavior. There's a lot of reasons for that. This it tends to if there aren't those fundamental reasons, this is an indicator of bankruptcy. However, if we do see this nice little jump here from $4 to $7. That's almost a 200% profit. Basically almost a 2x here, 2x there. So clearly something's going on. I want to try to echo back to you the reasoning for that. I want to say it had to do with their IP that they're building.
Well, it was the again. Remember, this is the last time I said the way I looked at it is when I looked at the IP that they have and what's going on in the larger pharmaceutical industry with respect to psychedelics and psychedelic
Psychedelics,
therapy,
yes, yes, okay,
right?
that's right.
And then I looked at the IP that they have in that area, right? I bought it $4, and I was like, it's worth $4,
Yeah,
just to see how the IP plays out.
as
So
I recall, we were kind of like, you know what? There there are certain points where you're just like, you know what? It's worth it to roll those dice.
yeah, $4.
Right.
It didn't. It wouldn't hurt.
Yep.
I put it this way: I looked at their IP and was like, would I pay $4 for that IP? Yeah, hell yeah, I would.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I
That's a
did.
great way to look
And
at it.
yep. So
All right. So Halo, really, it's really nice to see our stuff breaking out here. So looking back at these Fibonacci's, let's go to the day. This is another one that it's like, I'd really like to see this come down to like 55 or even 47. I'm just not convinced it's going to do that. Clearly, we've covered this on the show before,
mhm.
and probably down here in the 67s, and we've already turned, a good percentage of profit here. Had you have bought this one, it's already up into the 80s. So, that's what, 20%, something like that.
Yep.
And so yeah, that covers our
Oh
uh
wait, you didn't look at ions real quick.
okay.
Yeah, just one more. Yeah, we looked at that too, but
I undo that right now. So yeah, this one, if we look at the Fibonacci's on this big rally here, we have yeah, like we went for $20, and this is since 2025, recent memory, July. So this is just over a year. We went from
mhm.
$20 to 68.22. Very strong support here at 618. Again, the retracement Fibonacci levels you really want to look at is 618 or point 0.5. We have strong support here by these green triangles. Could we break down to 44 or 49? Maybe. But we do have really good support here. So if you're a strong believer in this one, I would look at current levels to buy, because there's a strong chance that we're going to pivot here and we could easily recover 68.22, which is high. So that's, what would that be? Like a 40% profit, something like that. So,
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
yeah, okay.
That's it. That's it.
So one real quick, I wanted to revisit is PBR. That's Petro
Yeah.
Ross. I
Yep.
just wanted to, in full honesty, we have had some multiple steps down. I added to the position every time you see a red line, that's where I added to the position. It's one of my favorites, and I'm going to keep holding this one all the way down to the bottom. However, I will admit defeat if come July 9th, maybe give it a couple more days. If this can't recover, I may ease back the loading up of this stock. I just can't see it failing. I can't see it failing just due to the fact that this is the darling of the entire nation of Brazil, which I remind you is the B in BRICS. So that's not going anywhere, let alone the geopolitical situation with Iran and
Right.
the likely impending global shift back to the West for oil demand. So
Right.
I want to say I added to a couple more positions this week. Oh yeah, the CRGY, I believe. Yeah, you see another red line here. Again, I'm okay holding this and actually even
Yeah. Just
buying
hold
more
it.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one that I like quite a bit. I think that's all. I might have gotten no, it was I might have added to the no, I did. I guess I didn't, or else there'd be a red line here. But this is one I believe in too. I think that we're in for some pretty hard times, and so this was, if you recall, like the tobacco products. It's another dividend king here at 5.83.
Four. Five. Yeah. Mhm.
5.83. So just ones I'm keeping an eye on. And another old favorite of mine, I don't recommend it right now at the show. It's just too high, was Microsoft. Microsoft's been really taking off. And Exxon, let's see how they're doing. And
Ooh. Yep.
so if you remember, and I actually didn't plan. I just fly by the seat of my pants. I don't really plan anything. So if you remember all these technical indicators here, we saw something called a head and shoulders, which usually portends what? A breakdown. Oftentimes you see it inverted. That would be a breakout. So and I probably went on this exact lecture last time, but where does it go? It goes to the Fibonacci levels. 1272 here at 139.08. Perfect target. And we hit that exactly. We could
Hmm.
we have the potential to tend a little bit lower to 129.42. If so, I'm a buyer there, because this stock isn't going anywhere, but they are in for headwinds for sure.
Well, also, I remember I've been given warnings about Exxon and
Right, because that
Shell, I
correct,
think.
because
Yeah.
of the infrastructure stuff, and the fact that
Right.
they're probably taking a hammering. Well, not probably, they are taking a hammering over there in in the Middle East. Again, that's kind of what I meant by headwinds.
Yeah.
So
Not just that, Danny, but Exxon and Shell, if I'm not mistaken, they're going to owe oil back
that's
with
right, that's right. Yeah, we
interest
discussed that.
to
Yeah,
the SPR when the SPR releases conclude.
yep,
So yeah, so those are words of caution there with relation to those companies. So
sure.
yep.
All right, good stuff. All right, that's it for the show, ladies and gentlemen. Happy trading, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye bye.